I think it's quite interesting to hear about the Nigerian business delegation. I mean, in South Africa, the media focus a lot on South African investment in Nigeria, but you hear very little about Nigerian investment in South Africa. And Nigerian businesses and banks have been very active in other African countries as well. I think it's one of the most important local African investors, because I think one of the challenges in Africa remains the low intra-African trade between African countries and investment between African countries. And South Africa and Nigeria are really the drivers when you look at Africa. I suppose you could add Egypt maybe as a third place, but I'd be interested to know about Nigerian business investment into South Africa.
As you mentioned, at the last count we had about 120 South African companies operating in Nigeria, and the number is growing by the day because we have huge opportunities in Nigeria. But in terms of Nigerian companies operating in South Africa, the number is not as high. But we have a good number of Nigerian professionals working in South Africa. Nigerian doctors, Nigerian architects, a good number of Nigerians that were working in the States, in Europe and other countries, who have seen South Africa, like a first stop or a last stop before coming to Nigeria, because although they were not satisfied with working in Europe or America, they felt before coming to Nigeria, let's come to another country that is quite similar, that has very high standards, like in Europe. But we also have we have our artists. We have very many artists, musicians, people working in South Africa. But the main difference we have at the moment is that we don't have the big companies, the likes of MTN, Sasol from Nigeria coming to South Africa. We have our friend, I say our friend, I'm sure Diana's friend, Alhaji, Dangote. He has this cement, company in South Africa, and a good number of Nigerian banks have representative offices in South Africa, but some have informed me that the process of getting a full banking license here is very difficult. They would like to have full banking licenses in South Africa. It's very difficult. Then the other problem they have is that the level of development in your economy is very high. So if you want to come in any of the major industries, you are coming at a very high level. So for it to be profitable, if you are coming at a high level, you have to do your own work very well. But if you drop one step below, we have Nigerian companies in South Africa into construction and other different areas. But I'm sure Diana would have better statistics on that.
Well, I think it's safe to say that one of the main exports from Nigeria to South Africa, besides oil, and we do source a lot of our oil from Nigeria, is professional skills. A lot of, as he says, South Africa provided a soft landing for a lot of people coming back from diaspora. Some of them have stayed on our chamber board. We have five Nigerian professionals who work for most of Standard Bank, PwC, and companies like that. So South Africa has really gained quite a lot from that. But actually, at some point in Nigeria, a lot of people went back to Nigeria, particularly the bankers. You'll find that a lot of the African diaspora in South Africa is in the financial services industry and come from Citi. People know each other from that sort of network of all these international banks. But he's right. I mean, Dangote is the only company of size. It's a big issue with the politicians. They keep saying, can we not have more Nigerians investing in South Africa? Well, I think there's a number of answers to that. One of which is the reason that so many big listed and even small companies from South Africa are in Nigeria is because that's where all the low-hanging fruit is. that is where the good returns are. You know, why would you want to come to South Africa to balance the books, as it were, where it's much harder to do business, the competition is much higher, the returns are probably lower. So really, Nigerians, they own that market. So why would they want to rush to South Africa just to, because? And I think what you are seeing, most of the expansion of Nigerian companies outside Nigeria are banks, mostly into West Africa, a little bit into East Africa. They have quite a lot of oil experience in the oil industry, so they're moving into these new oil areas, Mozambique, East Africa, etc. In South Africa itself, a lot of Nigerian companies at a very much an SME sort of level. So, and there's a lot of wealthy Nigerians who own property here. There are a lot of academics and things like that. There's quite a strong penetration of Nigerians. It's just what we don't really have, and I think it would be important. Dangote doesn't really count. He operates here under Sipaku Cement. So there's a joint venture which he now owns, I think, outright. So the Dangote name is not visible in South Africa anyway, but there are no other companies of size, and I think that would help to somehow improve this relationship. I think the problem is, do big companies in Nigeria see the opportunity here yet? They have the whole of ECOWAS in their backyard, also a really low-hanging fruit, huge opportunity. Why come to South Africa? I mean, I think it's a question everyone assumes you should be in South Africa. I'm not sure that's the case, and in fact the Nigerian banks, I hear a different story. There were 3 representative bank offices here. First Bank, the 3 big banks, Zenith and First Bank of Nigeria, they've all closed those offices. And it wasn't because, as I hear it, of them not being able to get business licenses for commercial banking. You know, I think that I certainly heard from First Bank of Nigeria, this issue was raised by the politicians, so I looked into it, is that they don't see the business case here for that. The diaspora population is not big enough, it's not wealthy enough for them. The corporate relationship is there, but actually what they want is they want ShopRite and others to have banks accounts with the Nigerian banks. So the rep offices are serving that kind of purpose. And so I think there's a lot of information that's not accurate that floats around this relationship. I'm not saying that they haven't tried. I haven't spoken to all the banks, but so I think the misinformation is one of the issues in this relationship just generally.
I know we're running out of time. Does anyone have any questions or issues to raise? If not hold you back. We're going to have a short tea break. But please come back. We're going to discuss Zimbabwe, which I think is really a great hot topic. And then Zambia, Mozambique, regional integration and regional issues. Thank you. Please thank the panel.